I'm Max Taylor. I'm a researcher at Animal Charity Evaluators. I write the AI for Animals newsletter, and I'm currently researching for a book about AI and animals. I'm going to give my 7 very hot takes, because I didn't have enough time for 10, about communicating about AI for animals. First up, people are interested in AI and animals. We've now got over 1,000 subscribers to the AI for Animals newsletter, as Megan said. And yeah, every day, just more and more news comes out about this. When I'm assembling the newsletter every month, and there's always way more news than I can actually fit in, covering like a whole range of different topics across a whole range of different publications, be that kind of very specific animal agriculture industry publications or much more mainstream outlets. So clearly there's something that's grabbed people's attention, and it will continue to do so. With the caveat that people are much more interested if you can give them specific examples. So I find that when I try and talk to people about the automation of factory farming, for example, then generally people don't really care unless you can give them a specific example of what this actually looks like. So this is one of the recently created pork skyscrapers in China. There are 2 of them that have been created. Together they can process over 1 million pigs a year. And they're very heavily automated, including some use of AI. So I think when you talk about this kind of thing with people, they really get a sense for how tangible the risks can be. People also seem especially interested in AI interspecies communication. I'd say like in the mainstream outlets, then this seems to be the most covered topic. I think it's helpful in itself, but also I think this can be a really useful hook, because generally people are very interested in charismatic species like whales or dolphins or elephants. But I think this can be a way to maybe start with that and then pivot to helping people think, what if we use these same kind of communication techniques or devices to communicate with the billions of chickens that we slaughter every year or the trillions of fish? And that might be a way to get people interested in animal agriculture that wouldn't be otherwise. Maybe this isn't say most, but lots of media coverage of AI and animals isn't great. This is an obvious example. I think every month I go through dozens of things that pop up on my Google alerts that are just AI, people use AI to create images of blank animal. So this is a clickbaity article that came out recently about AI creating images of yetis, which obviously I clicked on, but it's not super substantive. I think less obviously as well, then, there's a lot of press releases that are just very basic, essentially advertising for different industry publications, and then regurgitations of that same press release without really any analysis of what they mean. Say if it's factory farms talking about AI tools that they've recently brought out, there's no real analysis of like, do they actually do what they say they do, and how do they work on the ground? Which is why I think it's super important to consult the experts. It's great that we've now got the AI Animals Conference to do that in person. But equally, yeah, if you go to Google Scholar and just look for different topics, I think that can be super helpful context to understand the kind of barrage of day-to-day things that come in. I think I've learned much more about AI and alternative proteins, for example, or AI in wild animals by talking to a small handful of experts rather than reading hundreds of articles about those topics. Number 6, I think it's super important to tie this to broader discussions. First and foremost, obviously, to broader AI safety efforts. I think that people are doing a great job of this already, but we should continue to make clear that animal-focused AI safety isn't about siphoning away funding or resources from the human-focused AI safety moment. I think probably everyone in this room cares a lot more about human-focused AI safety than the average person. So we want to make clear that we want to have way more attention on AI safety generally, but also making sure that animal-focused AI safety is a considerable consideration in that. I think for me personally as well, then it'd be great to see more discussion of how AI can interact with other non-AI frontier technology. So that's representation of CRISPR, the genetic engineering tool. I think we'd also think about how AI can interact with robotics. And I think also there's not a lot of discussion about AI and vegan food systems more generally. So I think we could think a lot about how we can use AI to create a really positive vision of agriculture, where we're delivering enough food for 10 billion people by 2050 in a much more equitable and environmentally friendly way. And then last up, this is an AI depiction of what the future will look like for animals in 2100. Maybe it's correct. I think I try and shy away from saying that AI is going to be good or bad for animals. In part, because it's a lot more complex than that. You know, different applications will be good or bad for different animals in different contexts. But also, I think it just makes it a lot more simple than it actually is and could lead people to be maybe resigned or complacent about certain kind of AI animals' futures. Whereas I think that what we should be really focusing on is not whether it'll be good or bad, but how we can make it be as good as possible. Because we're standing right now at a crossroads, the million different roads. I think it's up to all of us to use the agency and responsibility we have to make sure we're going down the most positive road possible. So I'll finish on that note. Thanks very much.